Okay, so the three organizations at Bretton Woods, the agreements that was formed in 1945, United Nations, IMF, and World Bank. And 1947, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which was transformed to World Trade Organization later. Now, we're going to talk about IMF here, International Monetary Fund. Managing director by default, as I mentioned, should be a European citizen. IMF is the last resort, meaning if a country is in financial difficulty, they cannot directly go to IMF. They can propose, actually ask another country for loan. If they cannot pay the loan, then they can go to IMF. That's why it's called last resort. For example, Greece, when it was going down, they had to ask Germany for loan, which they did, but they couldn't pay their loans. They were in default. Then they can ask IMF to come and bail them out, but they can't go directly to IMF. That's why it's called last resort. IMF has its own fund, as we said. They collect premiums from the countries. The bigger your country is, the higher your premium is. IMF has its own currency. It's called Special Drawing Rights, SDR, which can be converted only to United States dollar. So they collect the funds in the form of SD, they convert it to SDR. They basically have the fund in their reserve. Later, if a country needs it, they can convert it to United States dollar and give to the country as a loan. So now, what happens in Bretton Woods system, it's talking about, we changed the system. United States now, it's the end of World War II, right? United States came out very strong. But if you see between 1914 to 1944, there is a huge gap, right? There's no system at that time because they were so busy around about two world wars. Now, what happens? When war happens, countries, in order to support their war expenditures, they have to just keep printing money, right? To support their war expenditure. When they keep printing money, too much supply, the value of the currency goes down. So it wasn't fair enough to be still pegged to gold. That's what they had to unpeg it, which is fixing. Pegging is like fixing. It's exactly the same fix. So they had to unpeg it. That's why between 1914 to 1944, it was no system. Countries just kept printing money because it was two world wars going on. Then 1944, when they decided to have, under Bretton Woods Agreement, to have the IMF, established one IMF, United States came out very strong. What they did, they started pegging again, but this time to United States dollar. Meaning, the same basically concept. If you have more dollar in your reserve, then your currency is stronger. If you have less dollar, your currency is weaker. That continued from 1944 to 1973. But what happened in 1973? Early 1970s, the 6-day war happened between Palestine and Israel. At that time, the United States started meddling, right? Every time you go to a war, or there is a potential of a war, your currency declines because your economy starts like being unstable and you do not attract foreign investors to come to your country. When foreign investors don't come, they don't spend your money. So there's no demand for your money. They stop coming to your country, no demand for your currency. When there is no demand, what happens? No demands, the price goes down, which means the value goes down. That's exactly what happened. So the 6-day war, when it happened, the oil-producing countries, major oil-producing countries in the Middle East, Arab countries, they started shutting down the oil to the world. So at that time, a lot of Arabs, first of all, a lot of countries were not sure where this war is going. A lot of Arabs started pulling their investments out of the United States and they invested in Great Britain, Europe, Swiss, Great Britain, all those countries or regions at that time. So United States dollar started becoming a little bit more unstable. From 1973, which is Jamaican Agreement. So they met, they had an emergency meeting in Jamaica. United States is meddling in the Middle East. The currency is going to be unstable. Economy will be unstable. A lot of Arabs are against it at that time. So they started untying the currency attachment to the United States dollar. They said from now on, any country is going to go only based on supply and demand. If there's a demand for your currency, you stay strong. If there is no demand for your currency, you go low. Which started, you see, after 1973 is post-Bretton Woods system, which means supply and demand system. Okay? Now, supply and demand, if a country has a lot of demand for their currency, then your currency stays strong, such as China, such as United States. Well, China, we're going to talk about that later, because China has artificially and informally kept the currency lower. Why China has kept the currency lower? Anybody can guess why China keeps its currency weaker? They try to have it depreciated, devalued. We talked about it. There is a lot of demand, goes strong. Is there any demand for Chinese yuan?
No.
There is a lot of demand. China is the manufacturer of the world, right?
Yeah, but I think they are being paid in dollars.
Okay, that's what they can stop having dollars, which they're doing right now, right, under BRICS. So there's a lot of demand because you need the, if they don't want to get dollar, they want to get yuan, they can, because you want to work with their manufacturers, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So therefore, there is a lot of demand for them, but what they do, they keep it low. We're going to talk about how government basically steps in to keep it a little bit low. Because if it's high value, like United States dollar, why would we want to invest in their manufacturing facilities, right? We can just do it here. Why should we go there? So for them, it benefits to keep the value low. It attracts foreign investors. So after Bretton Woods, they said, you're going to go for supply and demand. Now, there are certain countries that they would like to peg their currency still to a strong currency. Could be Jordan is pegging their currencies to United States dollar, for example. African countries, a couple of them have it pegged to European Union. Southeast Asian countries, one or two are pegged to Japanese yen. So it depends. If they have a lot of volume of trade with them, they would like to peg it, which means fixing. Now, we're going to talk about how we fix it later, right? Now, let me ask you this. Let me just see if you understand the whole situation. Let's say this is $1, hypothetically, equals to 20 Mexican pesos, right? In 6 months, $1 equals to 15 Mexican pesos. Did Mexican peso appreciate or depreciate?
Appreciate.
Yeah, what happened?
Because it's the what they are getting for the dollar is less now.
Exactly. They have appreciated. That means it's stronger now. Okay? Now, think about this. They come here, for example, they give 20 Mexican pesos to the bank, they get $1. Next year, they come here and they give only 15 Mexican pesos, but they still get $1. Did the Mexican peso appreciate or depreciate it? Appreciated. If they give 5 Mexican pesos, get $1, that means it's getting stronger. Think about it. The dollar is strong. The closer it gets to this one, that's how you can remember. That means it gets stronger. The further from dollar, that means it gets weaker. Okay? So it has appreciated here. Now, as I said, Chinese yuan, for example, they actually artificially and informally, they step in and they try to stop that. Now we're going to talk about it, how they will stop it. We'll talk about what is pegging exactly. So this is the post-Bretton Woods system, which is based on supply and demand. Now, so let's go back here now and talk about appreciation and depreciation. So we talked about it here. You see Mexican pesos has appreciated here, right? These are the determinant factors why exchange rates actually fluctuate, go up and down, and what do governments do about it. The first one, it says relative price differences, purchasing power parity. Well, you have to consider one thing. We talked about Big Mac Index. Do you guys remember Big Mac Index? So we talked about Big Mac Index. It says you can't expect, for example, $1 equal to 1 Mexican pesos, right? let's talk about this. We talked about it. What was purchasing power parity? $1, let's say, Big Mac is $5 in the United States. If the currency exactly, exchange rate, if the nominal is 20, it has to be 100 Mexican pesos. The Big Mac must be 100 Mexican pesos, right?
Yeah.
But they are not able to purchase. The purchasing power is not there, right? So McDonald's will change and put in their menu 70 Mexican pesos, okay? That means based on purchasing power parity, $5 equals to 70 Mexican pesos. So that's the difference over there. Because if this is the case, that means Mexican pesos has appreciated. But in reality, is still this one. So you have to pay attention to if it's based on purchasing power parity or it's based on nominal, right? That's the first thing. The second one, which is government intervention, interest rates and money supply. So how can governments intervene and make the currency appreciate or depreciate? Let's say a currency of a country, for whatever reason, could be war, instability in the region, not even in your country, but even region can impact, or political policies that government can implement. Let's say the currency value depreciates, goes down. What can government do to bring back up the value of currency? One of them is interest rates. Governments actually increase interest rates to attract foreign investors. For example, you have $50 million in United States bank account, right? It gives you 5-6% a year. They can actually have a increased interest rate and say, if you bring your $50 million here, we'll give you 20% a year. It happens all the time, 20% and even higher. So that attracts you to take your money and put in their bank accounts, right? Which is the need. It actually creates demand for that currency. When it creates demand for that currency, it actually brings the value of currency higher. That's one of the things they do. Now, money supply. Now in this scenario, they can see, okay, the value of currency is appreciating, but I don't want it to appreciate. I want to keep it low. You can inject money to the society, to the country, to economy. When too much money, too much supply, more than demand, you bring the value down. They do that too, money supply. It could be in form of printing, it could be in form of stimulus packages, because it brings the value down. Remember when we were receiving a lot of stimulus packages at the time of COVID, everybody was worried about inflation, which means you're losing the value of your currency because it's depreciating. All the stimulus packages, your value of currency depreciates. It doesn't have that much value. With the same money you could buy milk, now you cannot because it has lost its value. So that's as far as money supply. So when the currency is too strong, you can inject money to the economy and bring the value of currency down. If the currency is too weak, interest rates, the governments will actually increase the interest rates so they can attract foreign investors. The next one, productivity and balance of payment. You guys remember about the formula of GDP, right? What was it? I'm gonna repeat it so many times that nobody forgets when you guys leave this class. What was it? Consumer spending, government expenditures, investments, foreign and domestic, plus export. So this is the part we're talking about here. Productivity and balance of payment. Productivity is what you produce, and if it's excess, we have excess, we sell it. That means export, right? Sometimes some countries, they don't even distribute it to the country. It's only for export purposes, just to bring money to the country, for example. So that's the productivity. Now, balance of payment. Balance of payment, if it's surplus, it's good. It actually adds to our GDP, it's good. If our balance of payment, if you're in deficit, that's not good. That means if this is minus, we're in deficit. This is minus, it will impact this one to come down. So balance of payments is very important. We would like to more export. We talked about it in the past. Export is always very good for any economy. Even in the United States, we have one of the best organizations in the world, in Japan actually. They have one of the best organizations in the world, semi-governmental organizations called Sogo Shosha, which helps small to medium-sized enterprises to export because the country heavily relies on export. Here we have a very good system to export.gov. It's not as good as they have in Japan, but we have a pretty good one. Government will never help you to import. You're totally on your own. But government will offer you a lot of free assistance for exporting. Because it's always good for the economy. Yes.
What is so special about the Sogo Shosha? What is so special about that?
It's a government organization that helps small to medium-sized enterprises to be able to export. For example, how can they export? If they need money, if they need loan, government offer them with a very minimal interest rate. They can get loan to get going. Also, they do way beyond that. They can even connect you to they usually say, you tell me what industry you like and what country. Let's say I say, I don't know, earth moving equipment like bulldozers to Brazil, right? And they will connect me with suppliers over there. They'll connect me like if I need real estate, like which area is good. They'll connect me with my customers, the distributors. They'll do everything if you want to export. But if you want to import, you're totally on your own. They will also write marketing plans for you, but that's for a fee. But the rest, they will offer you for free. The next one is exchange rate policies. Let me talk about investor psychology and then I'll come back to exchange rate policies. Investor psychology it's totally based on psychology. For example, in the beginning of the turn of the century, a lot of manufacturing facilities, they shut down here and they moved to China. Let's say me and my competitors, we're all producing these podiums here, right? And then I see one of my competitors shut down their facility here and they went to China. Next year, their revenue is like 2 times as last year or as me, right? What do? I'm like, wow, that was a good idea. Let me shut down the facility, go to China. So that's investor psychology, which is bandwagon effect. You just follow the person ahead of you. So that's what we do, bandwagon effect, investor psychology. The next one is capital flight. Capital flight is that when you basically send your dollars outside of the country. Now, a very good example, the 15 countries of Soviet Union when it collapsed, now there are 15 independent nations. You have to understand, Soviet Union was communist, so everything was coming from the central command system. It was not like here, United States, which is federalism, like coming from each state, or each state has its own, basically, rules and regulations. It was all coming from one central system. When it collapsed, all of those 14 countries, except Russia, they didn't know how to run the country. So people never trusted them, that my neighbor will now run the country. It was a documentary I was listening actually to, they were interviewing an older lady in Belarus, this was. Like, because she was going to do the same thing just like everyone else. So they would take their Belarusian ruble to the bank, give it to them, and exchange, get dollar, equivalent dollar amount. Bring it home, either keep it at home or send it outside of the country to their family members or whoever, just outside to Europe, right? So when they were interviewing her, why do you do that? She's like, the person is going to run the country. You know, I was actually selling milk till yesterday, so when we were under Soviet Union. I don't trust the person that can run the country. It got to a point that the Federal Reserve, the central bank, ran out of dollar. So they had to come and announce in public media, bring your Belarusian ruble back, are willing to pay, bring your dollar back, we're even willing to pay you more Belarusian ruble. But nobody did. So that's how the country collapsed, and then they had to ask for loan, and then IMF had to step in. So that's called capital flight, because all the money is converted to dollar and then flying out of the country. So that's investor psychology. Now, let's talk about exchange rate policies. There are so many different types of exchange rate policies that we have. And always when you want to check the exchange rate policies, like monetary systems, you can go easily to IMF. There is a chart. Almost all countries are there. and it says, it's a table. It says countries, what is their monetary system, with details and notes, everything. So this is basically, starting from here, countries that are based on supply and demand, which is free floating currencies, all the way to here, based on supply and demand. And then this one is pegged, right? Now, this is free floating. When it's free floating, that means government will not intervene. It's only based on supply and demand. Usually strong economies are part of supply and demand system, which is free floating monetary system, which is like United States, European Union, Swiss franc, United Kingdom, British pound, Japanese yen, and right now, for example, Brazil real, a lot of currencies are part of this now. The next step would be dirty, they call it dirty floating, which is still floating, or managed floating. Which means they are based on supply and demand, but sometimes the currency goes really low and government needs to step in. When it goes low, which one do we do?
Interest rate.
Very good. When it goes low, we actually jack up the interest rate, so we bring attention to our currency, so foreign investors come in. So governments will come and do it. When it goes too high, government does what? Money supply to the economy, exactly. So these are, for example, India. They let it float freely, supply and demand. But sometimes there is a need to intervene by government. So that's basically managed floating. Now here it's pegging. Pegging means there are currencies that are fluctuating a lot, just like this, their currency, right? They want to make it stable because this doesn't bring attention of investors to my currency. I'm going to lose investment, right? Which is not good because remember, for my GDP to grow, I need investors here. So I want to make it more stable. Something like this, right? What can I do? I can peg, which means fix, my rate of fluctuation to a stronger currency. For example, as I said, Jordan has Jordanian dinar is fixed to US dollar. It's pegged to United States dollar, meaning the value is not pegged. The value is not the same, right? But if this one fluctuates 0.05%, this one will also fluctuate 0.05%. So the rate of fluctuation is pegged, not the value, okay? This is only to make sure this stays more stable and attracts foreign investors. Now, this all happened after 1973, Jamaican Agreement. You can free float, or the two countries can agree on their IMF to peg it. Why would United States allow Jordan to peg it? Many times it's because countries have interest in the region, because you will have a lot more control, have interest in the region, or they have a lot of investments in that country. If you have a lot of investments, you don't want their currency to go down because your investment will go down. Now, the next one is, there are a lot of European countries that are pegging to European, the euro, Southeast Asia, as I said, they peg it to Japanese yen. The next one is Crowling peg. Crowling peg is actually, it is pegging. Now, here, the country loses the autonomy and control, like for example, Jordan here, over their banking system, over their monetary, not bank, monetary system, right? Here, the country, the small country is pegging to bigger country, to large country, but it has a range that you can stay within the range. It's not 100% fixed rate. Now, for example, United States changes 0.05%. The Jordanian dinar can go 0.052% up or down. So it is a very close range that you can follow. But this is 100% fixed. You got it? So these are the different types of monetary systems. Now, what is China's system? China looks into a bag of, it's informally, basket of currencies. They can say, oh, United States dollar changed that much, European euro changed that much, Swiss franc, UK, British pound, and all that. And they average up and they go up and down. They do it informally and artificially because they want to have more control over their currency. There are other currencies, for example, the 27 countries of European Union, they don't even have a control over their own individual sovereign states' currency because they agreed to, I mean, not all the 27, I'm sorry, 17 of them. 17 of them agreed to have a common currency, which is euro, so it comes from the Commission, it comes from the European Union Commission. There are countries like Ecuador and El Salvador, they completely gave up their banking, financial, all the systems because United States is printing dollar, like US dollar for them as well. So they don't have any control. They completely lost their autonomy over their own banking system. That's different than this one because Jordanian dinar is still printing Jordanian dinar. You see what I'm saying? It's just the rate, the fluctuation rate that is paid. But El Salvador and Ecuador, they completely lost it. They don't have any control over their currency. So these are the reasons, as we talked, that the determinant factors of foreign exchange rates. Now, let me ask you guys this. If I'm going, let's say I am a tourist from Brazil and I want to go to Thailand, right? So Brazilian real, R-E-A-L, but they call it H-L. I want to go to Thailand, Thai baht. Okay, so do I exchange my currency in Brazil? Do I go to the bank, give real and get Thai baht? Or do I do it in Thailand, give real to the bank and get Thai baht? Or what do I do?
Go to Thailand.
What I did when I went to Brazil, I took like US dollars and I went to one of their banks and I pretty much changed my US dollar to their reais.
Okay. So you will say that Brazilians can go to Thailand and change it? What is the answer?
I would say, I would say maybe go to Thailand and change their
So take your real, go to Thailand and change it to baht?
Yeah.
Is that what you said too?
Take it to Thailand, right?
Yeah. Anybody has any different opinion? Any different?
Would you have to change it for an intermediary currency first?
Very good. That's exactly what it is. What is the intermediary?
Probably US dollar.
Exactly, 80% of the time. No, 100%, but 80% of the time. He's right, you have to change it. It's United States dollar, it's called vehicle currency. It's a vehicle currency. So you go to actually Brazil bank, you give your real, you change it to US dollar, you take this US dollar to Thailand, give it to Thai bank, and get baht here. There's a very simple reason for it. Countries, bank systems, they cannot keep all currencies around the world just because one person might actually go to that country. It's just not worth it that way.
Unfortunately.
They keep 80%. What is it? Go ahead.
You see, it's why I know a lot. I didn't know the details, but why it comes to me when you talk about it. Everything here is what Nigeria is going through, and that's why I've been able to answer like what interesting.
Exactly. I know.
It used to be when I first went. My first degree was I got it in England, and we used to take our money straight to England and exchange it.
Yeah, hold on. Let me finish because we're going there.
Okay.
80% is dollar. The 20%, 10 to 15% is British pound. European euro, Swiss franc, other very strong currencies which they have high trade volume, right? So it depends how much they keep it. Now, the other couple percent that is left, it depends if you have a high volume of trade with that country. For example, Iran and Turkey. Because they have very high volume of trade, so Iran does keep Turkish lira. You see what I'm saying? So it all, because they're neighboring countries, they have a lot of volume of trade. So you do keep actually the country that you have volume, very high volume of trade, you do keep it. British pound, it's actually one vehicle currency.
Yeah, but
It
that
is
was
part of
even
it.
before now. Now it's very different.
Now it's very different. Yeah, I understand. And plus, there are a lot of Africans in Europe, so that's much, again, it's volume of trade,
Yeah.
volume of interest, volume of demand, how much to keep that one there. You see what I'm saying? But in general, 80% of transactions, for example, tourists or something like that, you want to go there, its vehicle currency is done by United States dollar. Because again, they don't keep all currencies around the world in their bank reserve, as simple as that. They just keep a couple of them, or the main countries that they have the highest trade volume with it. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
So that's why you see if you go to some countries and you're like, oh, they have this currency, it's just because they have a very high volume of trade. But countries that don't have that much, it just doesn't make sense for them to keep it in there.
Everything is making so much sense because, like Nigeria and Republic of Benin, like you just said, Turkey and
They
their
have the,
neighbors,
exactly.
they even spend
Exactly.
the same
They
money.
keep it, exactly, yeah. So if you have a high volume of trade, that's an exception. They always keep it.
Yeah.
Now, let's, yes.
So in the near future, as we're discussing about United Nations, what we expect, like, not in the future, near future, but in the future, we expect for United Nations to develop their own, if they come to agreement with all the nations together, their own vehicle currency, but like universal currency, some similar to what could be this influence of Bitcoin.
Has it been talked about it?
No, but I have heard that the news that Venezuela have been trying to use
Bitcoin. Exactly. Bitcoin, he's right actually. You remember like the standards are changing, gold standards and then dollar and then free floating. So Bitcoin or like a digital currency will come in the future too. When? I don't know. You see what I'm saying? But yes, it will be actually, it might be common denominator for all countries around the world. And Venezuela is actually one of the first ones to use in such a high volume because their currency lost value completely. So that was the only way they could actually order on Amazon, and they didn't have like shelves were empty, everything. So that was the only way they could order from Amazon outside of the country to ship it for them. Yeah, it has already started actually within the last decade, but how fast it's going, and if all countries around the world will use it and all that, that's a different story because of rules and regulations that they have to implement first. Now let's talk about spot transactions, forward transactions, and swaps. So let's say I'm buying laptops from Japan. Actually, Japanese yen has depreciated a lot. I was surprised to see Japanese yen used to be always around 110, 120, 125. Now it's like almost 150, which was very surprising to me. So let's say I'm buying laptops from Japan. Each of them are $1,000 or whatever. And then I'm buying 1,000 of them. It's $1 million that I have to pay, and I cannot pay today. If I can pay today, I will go online, look at the conversion rate. It says whatever rate it says. I'll pay it right now, and that would be it. That would be a spot transaction or a spot exchange rate, right? Usually, because international trade volume is huge, usually companies don't have that money right there to pay on spot. So therefore, they want to pay at a later time, which would be forward transactions, okay? So, Japanese, the value of currency, their currency is actually going down. If it was 100, for example, equal to $1, now it's like 150 equal to $1. So their value is going down. and I wanna pay them in 6 months. So, first of all, you have to understand, forward transactions, it's a form of hedging, which is hedging means insuring. You're insuring your transactions, your money, your currency, right? So it's all based on negotiations. What I will say, I'm like, okay, look, right now, dollar is 150. I say to my Japanese supplier, Japanese yen, your country is doing very bad. I know in 6 months that I'm going to pay, it will be actually, $1 will be 160 Japanese yen. So what am I doing? I'm actually putting their money down. I'm saying it will lose actually more value. Because right now it's 150. If it becomes 160, but I'm still paying $1, but I'm getting more than their currency than before, that means their currency is depreciating, right? In 6 months. So that would be my analysis. I will say, listen, in 6 months, I can see the way your country's economy is going. Japanese yen will be actually 160 per dollar. Meaning, I am actually negotiating for myself, and I say, but because I'm very nice enough and I'm very generous, I'll actually calculate $1 equals to 155. How about that? I'm still actually getting a very good discount, because if I would pay it today, I would pay it based on 150. But I'm negotiating for myself 155. My supplier can say, you know what? My government just passed a very good policy, and we're all assuming that my actually rate will appreciate. So it will be, because right now it's 150. In 6 months, it will be actually 140, exactly, 140. But because I'm very nice enough, I'll get 145. Or I can get actually, I can stay 150 for today, because he knows, or she knows that it's gonna go down, right? I can do it 145, or I can do it actually somewhere between 45 to 50, right? So this is based on negotiation. Forward exchange rate or forward transactions is only based on two parties' negotiations. Now, when you which is called hedging, you're insuring your money, right? Whatever happens, the deal you close today, you both sign the agreement. Whatever happens in 6 months, you cannot change. That's it, you're done. So that's why you're insuring with good negotiation skills and understanding and analyzing all the portfolio numbers, economy of the country. You can actually have a good negotiation skills and close a very good deal for yourself. Now, Southwest Airline in 2007, they closed a deal which is called hedging, because they insured their funds too. They said they closed a deal with fuel supplier, and they said for next 8 years, give us the price of today, rate of today, but we'll buy only from you, not from your competitors, for next 8 years. And the fuel company agreed, fuel supplier agreed. So they closed the deal. 2011, the price of fuel doubled, almost doubled in 2011, right? So, but Southwest Airlines was still, do you guys remember that was a time that Southwest Airlines was the cheapest ticket? Mm-hmm. About 10 years ago, it was like everybody was talking about it. It was just because of the fuel agreement that they had. So that's hedging. They're insuring their basically budget. Now, what is swaps? Swaps actually is when, let's say I have money in Europe, you have money in United States. I need to buy a house in United States. You need to buy a house in Switzerland. You can deposit your money in my account here. I can deposit my money into your account over there. So we're circumventing all the transaction fees, exchange rate fees, everything. The first time it happened officially, it was 1981 when IBM, an American electronics company, and World Bank, they needed actually money. IBM being an American company, they were short in dollar. They had most of their funds in Swiss banks. World Bank actually wanted to do a project in Switzerland, in Europe, in that part of the world, but they had a lot of dollar in the United States. They asked for loans, the rates are very high, exchange rate fees are very high. There was a third-party consultant that finally said, I can actually connect you guys together because I know IBM actually currently needs US dollar and World Bank needs Swiss franc. How about you deposit your money into their bank account and they deposit into your bank account here, so you don't need to exchange the same equivalent of the rates. So you don't need to exchange any currency, because every time you exchange currency, you know that you're losing money, right? Always the buying price is higher than selling price. That, just like gold, you buy gold very more expensive than when you sell it. That's how you lose money. When the volume is huge, so you're gonna lose a lot. So that's called swapping. And right now, after that, after 1981, a lot of big companies do it. But it's just, usually it's like very big companies, multinational corporations or big organizations, because they need to know each other and trust each other. Okay, so what else? Let me show you guys here then. The currencies, I would like to show a couple currencies here. So this is look here, but I want you to understand, do you think this is fluctuation, a lot of fluctuation? What do you think?
A lot.
It's actually not a lot. Why is the reason? Because look at the number. It's 95 cents to 97 cents. Yeah, that's why it's not a lot. You see that?
Yeah.
That's why it's really nothing. It's 2 cents of fluctuation. That's why I want you guys to pay attention to. Now, even in a year, under $1 was actually the fluctuation, so it's nothing. Now, let me show you this here, for example. You see that? That's called fluctuation. And look at the numbers, 42,000. Now, one thing I want you to understand. There is a quota for Iranians who can exchange their currency, 1%, $10,000, I guess it is. When their max is met, 10,000 they already exchanged from the banking system, which can be under this rate, then it goes to $92,000. Because this is a banking fee, but it's not only for $10,000. After that, it's $92,000. 92,000 toman equals one US dollar. Yeah. So this is called unstable. And what is the reason? Is because the country is under sanction and their currency is not convertible. They cannot convert their currency. So that's what, if there's no demand for the currency, it goes down, right? But what the country does, because they have a lot of oil and gas, they actually do barter a lot of times. They give oil, get rice, oil, coffee. They give oil, get something. That's what they do. So the currency doesn't have much value, just like Venezuela, we're just talking about it. But they're doing barter mostly. Now, which country has the strongest currency in the world? Not even the top 3.
Switzerland.
No.
Oh,
That's all
it's
you
in
know.
Europe.
China?
No. It's one of the small countries in Europe, I believe.
No. It's very small country, but it's not in Europe.
Wow.
You
give it to her?
It's the continent of Asia.
Singapore?
No. But good guess. Yeah. Makes sense at least. Yeah.
Give it to us.
It's actually 3 times higher than stronger than United States dollar. The strongest currency in the world. No.
Thailand?
Somebody said
Thailand
that
is
before.
not even strong. I don't even think top 50. I don't know. No. It is not as strong at all. Should I type it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. K, is it K? Is good enough? Or you guys already got it?
Wait.
Here. You get,
Oh.
yeah, you give 1 United States dollar, see? You give 1 United States dollar, you get how many pesos? 20 pesos. You give 1 United States dollar, how many Japanese yen? 150 Japanese yen. But you give $1 and you get 30 cents on your currency, which is dinar, right?
1982, that was how our currency is to the United States.
No way.
Honestly, 67 cents. When you, honestly, see, you can go back in time, you can say it was, and they did everything to break it down and make it worse. Yeah, when I was going to England, then.
So
yeah,
you remember it because you
It
were
was
living-
67.
Wow. Very interesting. So it's Kuwaiti dinar is number 1, and then Kuwaiti dinar after that it is a British pound, European euro, then United States dollar. Qatar is very strong too, but I don't think it's Qatari. Yeah, no, Qatar is not that strong. Qatari's real is not that strong. How about Bahrain? Let me see, because Bahrain might be. Now, why Kuwait is so strong? Oh yeah, Bahrain is very strong too. Yeah, you see Bahrain is like Kuwait too. See that? Kuwait is still stronger because it's 33 cents. This is 38 cents. So it's Kuwait, Bahrain, British pound, European euro, and then it's United States dollar. Now, why is it Kuwait so strong? First of all, political stability, economic stability, but also it's a very small country sitting on oil field. That's very important too. That's why.
Institution, culture.
What is it?
So the region that's natural resources, institutions, and then the culture is very
Oh,
strong.
the 3 facts of
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, that's a very good point, because the country is not corrupt at all, which is the institution, right? So the country is not corrupt. The culture, which was talking about, no, religion, culture is a religion, right? They are actually very religious people, very religious. And then the third one was the region, the geography, which the geography really helped them. So institution and geography really helped them a lot, of course, because they're not corrupt, and the geography, of course, because they're sitting on oil field. The only thing is that it says religion, very strong countries in, you're talking about the video, right? We
Yeah.
watched. So, do you guys remember the 3 facts why some countries are rich, why some countries are poor? The 3 facts were institution, which is corruption, culture, which actually ties it to religions, and then the third one was geography, if it's landlocked or not. So he's right. The first one, the institution, it applies to Kuwait because the country is not corrupt. The second one, religious. Now in that video, it actually talks about, there are a lot of exceptions. For example, United States. It's a religious country, but it still is very strong. So it has some ties in there. There are exceptions. And then the third one, which is geography, which the country sits on oil field, basically. That's why. And it's a small country with not a lot of residents, citizens there. But I think transparency and lack of corruption is very important. Of course, geography plays an important role too, but they could have been corrupt and take all the money. Like Nigeria, it's a very oil-rich country with a lot of natural resources. Their problem is only corruption, just like Iran, actually.
Yeah.
So was Kuwait strong? I don't want to turn into politics. Was Kuwait very strong in the 90s? Was the reason why I think.
Iraq started invading it, yeah.
Yeah.
Kuwait has, yeah, it is. It has been, as far as I remember, 70s, 80s, 90s, yeah. As far as I remember, it has been very strong, consistently. And it didn't have like political, revolution or coups, coup d'etats. It has been very steady and stable. That's why it plays a very important role for their currency stability as well. Okay, so I think Zimbabwe, then there's a very good one too. Zimbabwe actually, in 2013, $1 was equal to 13 trillion Zimbabwean currency, which means it was nothing. It was just a piece of paper. and people were not even using it. It was just barter, based on barter. Because they lost completely the value of currency just because of corruption. Then later IMF had to step in, and then they had to write a plan. Now the other thing that is very interesting is, you guys might not remember, Mexican pesos used to be, for example, 10,000 Mexican pesos was equal to $1. And then this is like 80s. 10,000, I remember that, Turkish lira was like $1, right? 10,000 Italian lira was $1. They were almost all like this, let's say. Not exactly, but with like thousands, right? So what they do, they can actually propose to IMF a plan and show that they can change, and then if IMF approves, they can remove the zeros. And then it will be 10 Mexican pesos equal to $1. And that's all of these countries. This one joined the European Union, so this is nothing, there's no Italian lira anymore. But these two countries, well, you have to have a very good plan, 5 years plan, start applying it, and then if it shows improvement, then the second 5 plan, all that, and then IMF will approve it. About 10, 15 years ago, Iran did actually propose, but IMF never approved it because the condition never changed. The condition to put the country in that economic situation was sanction. And sanction was still there, and it's still there today. So the condition wasn't changing. That's why IMF was like, no, we cannot approve this plan. But countries consistently, they keep doing this all the time. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. Okay, any question? Okay, so I think for Wednesday, to be honest with you, can you stop? So, thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate it.